Surbhi, it's a pleasure to welcome you. You know, since the last couple of years, generative AI has been transforming itself. And it is getting to a point where it's going to be part of our everyday life, not very far from now. There are some apprehensions, there is some excitement. So, how do you see that evolving?
Thank you, Mateen. Great question. And thank you for welcoming me here. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. Generative AI is definitely the buzzword. I don't think any day goes by where I do not have a meeting or a session where we don't talk about it. And the potential for it to make an impact, whether it's industry, technology, or our personal lives, is immense. Now, whether I'm terrified about that or excited, actually, I'm both. In technology, I lead customer experience, and I see the ability to really move the needle on the way we engage with our customers is immense, whether it's in the way we market, whether it's in the way we support our customers, whether in the way we do self-service capabilities or build internal efficiencies, all are immense. But outside of that, also in our personal lives, I see a huge impact in education. It can be positive or it can go in the other direction. So I think that there are many places to be excited and engaged, but we also need to put some guardrails so we do not take away the future of our children where, they need to be secure, they need to be safe, and all of those are major concerns for me as well.
I want to go into your area of expertise. For startups who are scaling, there is a very acute challenge for them is product development to keep enhancing, listening to the market all the time. So if you keep the yin and yang effect, product development, listening to the customer, interfacing with them, that has been a consistent challenge because most of the entrepreneurs who start technology startups are not customer facing in their experience. And that's where people like you come in and kind of give your experience and your expertise and advice. And that's where I wanted to focus.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the good thing about startups is that you're very early in the game, that you can pivot. And I also, wherever I'm advising startups, I tell them, make sure you're validating your theory and your thinking with real customers. So find a few friendly customers that you can validate your designs with. So you're not too far downstream before you realize you have to pivot. And the good thing is that a lot of times as startups do that, they even change the game. So they could start with one problem set and one solution, but as they talk to the customers, it morphs into a more relevant and pertinent problem to that market segment. So I think people who are not used to that market engagement or customer engagement absolutely should. Startups have to think about starting with a problem statement, but going and validating it with real customers, because otherwise you might go too far down a track before you realize you have to pivot. So, and I have to tell you this, with generative AI, most of the startups that I was supporting or helping, they've all come back and said, how can we insert generative AI or look at a way to use generative AI to improve our product or our strategy or our value proposition, because that's the expectation of customers and consumers now. They're like, are you using generative AI? Like, how are you bleeding edge? And Gen AI is the answer for most of them. So it's a very exciting time for startups to morph themselves and recreate their value proposition with sprinkling of Gen AI.
Great. Switch gears again to talk about women empowerment, women leadership. It's been the mantra for almost a decade now that I've been hearing. There has been a lot of focus, attention gone into this area. What do you think we should do more to be inclusive?
Yeah, I think that's, despite it being happening for the last decade, I think there is still so much more to be done. Because two things, that the awareness is being built, but the amount of work that needs to happen still remains. Because when I was at Google, we were doing a lot of women technology initiatives and efforts to see how can we go in colleges and make sure that there are more and more women coming into engineering or technology and STEM field. And we realized that by then it was too late. And so we started going to high school students and trying to influence them. And then we realized even that is too late. We have to influence middle school kids. So the answer is that the work has to continue till we really build an environment of equality, that we have a higher percentage of women entering the top of the funnel. Because when that is low, by the time you get to leadership and by the time you get to CXO roles, there are very few women. And if we want to build products and companies that are inclusive, you have to have diverse workforce that brings that thinking, right? That's just common sense. If we have 50% women in the world, they should be representing their mindset in the products in the companies, and that takes work. So even though that awareness has been there, just like this event we did for women, we need to continue to bring women together, to have conversations, to talk about how we give them a platform and a community to support them, especially the younger generation. We met so many of them, and it really warms my heart when they come up to us and say that, can you be a mentor? Can you help coach us, guide us? We did not have that. When we came in, there were very few women leaders, very few women leaders of color that we could approach. So I'm glad that it's getting better, but there's a lot more work to be done.
Let's talk about leadership. It's very important, I feel. Leaders, not just because you're running a division or a company or a startup. Leadership is important because along with upgrading your own skill sets, you are looking at empowering and encouraging others to become leaders. That's what a leader is. Two questions, or two-part question rather. One is, who do you get inspiration from, or who are the people, or what kind of people do you look up to from time to time to get inspiration, learn from? And what are the things that you want to learn from them so you can then empower other people?
Yeah, I think the idea that you just mentioned hit it on the head, hit the nail on the head, is that when you are a leader, your job is not to stand on a podium and get the limelight. Your job is to make sure you bring everybody else up. You give them the platform, you give them the ability to shine. And there are the many examples in the Bay Area. I read books, a lot of books, and I take examples and inspiration from leaders like Andy Grove, even leaders like Steve Jobs. The point is that different leaders give you different perspectives. And when I think of my leadership style, I try and take bits and pieces of all of their thinking, because somebody was asking me this morning, what leadership style is right? There are many leadership styles. And I shared with them that my thinking is that you need different styles for different people, and different types of people, different types of teams that you lead and work with, you have to use different incentives. Everybody feels appreciated differently, and then we need to understand that. So I feel with more women leaders, I also feel the excitement that we are bringing a sort of an EQ to the table as well. And now people talk about openly, which I'm really appreciative of, that EQ is a skill that we should ensure that all our leaders have, not just IQ, but EQ helps us figure out how do you communicate with the different kind of people in our teams. How do we ensure that each one is getting validation and respect and recognition in the way that they want to get, not in like one size fits all. And that comes with the EQ mindset, the EQ ability to say who has what kind of needs in the workplace.
Thank you. I think the EQ note, I think it's very relevant, very important. That's where I think we don't pay much attention because we are always so competitive in this world. But it's been wonderful talking to you. Thank you for coming and sharing your thoughts.
Thank you so much, Mateen. It was my pleasure. Thank you.